There was a season in our life where we needed a storage unit. Not really because we wanted one, but because life just required that we needed it. We were moving from our home in Wisconsin to Michigan, and we had this waiting period before we sold our house and found a place to rent or live or whatever. So we needed a place where our things could land, and the most logical solution was a storage unit. This is what owning a storage unit taught me. And I will say that that season of owning a storage unit, as chaotic and temporary as it was, taught me one of the biggest lessons about holding on to things. So if we haven't met before, hi, I'm Katelyn. My husband and I and our family have moved more times than I expected. And every single one of those moves has forced me to confront all of our things and the way that we were living. This series is about me sharing those seasons. As I look back at how I got to this point of living in a 600 square foot space and feeling contentment, it just feels like there's a beautiful story here, and I need you to hear it. So I'm not sharing this because I have it all figured out, but because each one of these moves has taught me that things can be different. Life can be slower. We have the permission to live differently. So when we moved to Michigan, we stayed with my parents for a time. If you've ever lived in someone else's home with your family, you know how that feels. And I was grateful. Just so incredibly grateful to have a place to land as quickly as we needed it to be. And my parents are wonderful. They opened their arms in their house to us in the matter of like a 2 week span, and we made it work for a time. But it was hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was hard being in someone else's space after you've had your own space. I just started working again, so my kids were not with me like they had been prior, and I was away from both them and my husband at the same time because he was still in Wisconsin. Life just felt temporary, it was chaotic at times, and life was just in this in between stage. It was not settled and not fully our own. Like, we had everything that we needed, but it wasn't ours. And all of our belongings were sitting somewhere else, waiting. So we started renting a storage unit, and we needed a place for all of our things to go because my parents didn't have the space, but I was just constantly aware that we were paying to store our things. I thought I would never be in that position where we needed to pay for storage, and we were, which I think is okay for a time. I just didn't want to get stuck in the trap of having one and keeping it and still having stuff in there years later and not knowing what was in there. Like, there wasn't another option. We were waiting for our home to sell and preparing to eventually move again into a rental. It felt like the right decision. It was responsible and necessary at that time. But what I wasn't expecting during that season of of renting a storage unit was how heavy that season of life was. And it was heavy in a way that I didn't understand at the time. Not because anything was particularly wrong, but because literally everything else in my life besides working and my kids was unsettled. Like, I was living apart from my husband. I was living with my parents, like living in someone else's home, knowing all of my things were packed away, waiting for life to move forward. It really teaches you what you actually need day to day. But for me, it also brought up how much I was holding on to in the background. So here's the realization, because I was not expecting to have this realization, and it just hit me. During that time, I just started thinking about everything that was sitting in this storage unit. Every box, every piece of furniture, every item that we decided to keep from our home in Wisconsin. I knew everything eventually would have to be dealt with. We would have to face it all again. And if I'm totally honest, there was still this part of me that was holding on to things for the life that I had envisioned for myself, and like holding on to things that I imagined for my life someday. So there was still a part of me that was holding on to the life and the things that I had envisioned for another day, another time, and almost to an extent a different life. Like furniture pieces, extra items, all the decor that I purchased when I was a 20 something, newly married, and wanting my home to look beautiful. These are the things that I thought I needed to have in my future home, and not the life we were living in this moment. but for the life that I thought we would have a little bit later. And while I had this thought in my mind, it didn't change how I was overnight. And I think that's the biggest misconception with like simplifying and decluttering is thinking that like, yes, I have the power to change and it's going to be immediate. What I really wanted was to be super thoughtful and intentional about the things that I do bring into the home, bring into our next place, hold on to for that future version. The more I sat with this and realized this, there was a seed that was planted. Like I wasn't ready to just like let go of everything, but like that seed was definitely planted that we don't need all the things that we have in this storage unit and we may not need to keep it. And really, not long after we've had the storage unit, my husband moved, life shifted again, as it does sometimes. We found ourselves preparing for one of the biggest transitions that we ever made. And that was moving into a camper. That move, that decision, finally made me confront all of the extra excess things that I'd been holding on to. Now I don't regret the season of having a storage unit. We needed time to figure out where we were going to land. And it made sense for our life at the time. But it taught me something so important. Keeping things doesn't mean they disappear from your life. Eventually, you have to face them again. And I did. But that's the story for another time. In the next video, I'll be talking about why we chose to move into a camper and what all led to that decision. See you in the next one.